What's up everyone and welcome back to LaceUp channel. My name is Mickey. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through how to actually track lot numbers in 2025. Let's get right into it. So yesterday, I went out and visited one of my distributors here in South Florida because they're having more and more issues tracking lot codes in their warehouse. So yesterday, I'm sitting there with this distributor and I'm asking them, how are you doing your lot traceability today? And they go, when we receive a purchase order and we create the item receipt, we enter the lot code into QuickBooks. And I'm like, okay, that's always a great first step into tracking lot numbers. What are you entering as the lot number into the field in QuickBooks? That customer's answer is, well, we're entering the date received. This was the first red flag indicating that they weren't truly tracking lot numbers. So what they were doing instead is they were entering the date received as the lot field so that they could keep some level of first expired, first out, but they were not actually tracking lot numbers. So they're not actually assigning a lot number to an invoice until after the product has already been delivered to the customer. Well, let me give you an example. Let's say you had 3 or 4 lot codes in the warehouse right now. Your pickers picked any of them, loaded them out to the truck, you gave them to a customer and invoiced them to a customer. Which of those 4 lot codes did you invoice to that customer? So lo and behold, this customer actually is not tracking lot numbers whatsoever. They're using some fake first expired, first out validation rule that they made up to pretend like they're tracking lot numbers. So that's a good segue into what should you do if you're doing some sort of process like this one that simply doesn't work. When you go to enter a purchase order into your accounting system, in the lot code field, shocking, you should be indicating and writing down every time you receive a pallet in your warehouse the physical lot code that was received. That should go on a piece of paper as your receivers are taking product off the truck. Then what should happen? Every single pallet that gets unloaded from one of your vendor's trucks should have a label adhered onto it. Now, if you don't have a WMS, you could simply have one of the people that receives the pallets off the trailer generate a manually written label or 9.5 by 11 piece of paper that has the lot code, the expiration date, and then you put it in the pallet. So you open up the wrapping paper, stick it in, wrap it back up. If it's very difficult for you to see, maybe you want to put one of those on each of the 4 corners of the pallet. That way, when you put that pallet away, you know exactly what lot number and what expiration it is, which should help you with rotation because you're not using a WMS. So now, you've put a 9.5 by 11 piece of paper in the pallet. You've written down what lot number you received. You take that back to somebody in the office and you have that enter in those values into the accounting system. Now you want to get this done before your pickers start picking that inventory, because if you don't, ultimately you're not going to be able to track the lot number on exit, which is a good segue to picking. When you print your pick list, whether you're picking by truck or picking by order, you want to give your pick list to your pickers, and then when they've replenished the pallet down to your pick slot, you want them to pull that piece of paper out that we talked about earlier, which has the lot and the expiration, and put it somewhere where they can constantly view it. Why do you want to do this? Well, as your pickers are picking from that lot code onto their totes or carts, you want them to manually write down off that label what lot number was picked. Now this seems like it's going to slow down your pickers, and believe me it will, but you've opted at this point to not use a warehouse management system and do everything manually. Nonetheless, it should be at the marginally slower to write down a little lot code, or maybe the last 3 digits of the lot code, so at least you have some level of traceability. So once everything's picked and loaded out to the truck, it's very simple. If you pre-pick, meaning you pick by order, the order that gets delivered by the customer already has a lot number that's going to be deducted. Where it gets a little bit trickier is if you have a truckload that has multiple lot numbers on it, and your driver goes to 15 different customers and those lot numbers are distributed amongst those customers. The only way to have true traceability in this scenario is you either have to have the driver manually write down the lot numbers that they gave the customer, which is very costly, or you need to implement some sort of DSD solution that allows the driver to scan the lot code if your lot codes are barcoded when delivering to the customer. So at this point, you're like, I don't want to do this lot traceability stuff because all of these different processes in receiving and picking and delivering are going to add costs and overhead to my business. And I understand you, and that's where the first phase of warehouse management comes in. So the first phase of warehouse management is quite simple. Every single product that comes into your warehouse has to have a lot code. If you have a system like this where you maybe can convince your vendors to put a lot code on everything, or if your receivers can break down every pallet and put a little label on everything as it comes into your warehouse, well, then all you need is a scanner that reads from that label to capture the lot number on exit, which makes everything so much easier. Now, this is the first level of warehouse management. It's still not perfect, but at least you have everything barcoded and everything's being scanned, which means you have full traceability to the end customer, which I think is a good segue into the next level of warehouse management, which is always going to be a little bit more costly, a little bit more expensive to implement, but ultimately gives you full traceability without all the manual data entry. So the second level of warehouse management is when product comes in, the system should allow you to generate a license plate for that pallet. So when generating a license plate, you should be able to open up a purchase order on a scanning device and enter the lot and the expiration date for every single item that you receive. As you enter that lot and expiration date and quantity, you're going to print a license plate barcode for every single pallet. Now here's the key. You don't only tag the pallet, but you also tag a couple of the cases on top of the pallet, and you set the standard operating procedure so that your pickers leave those cases till the very end when they're picking from that pallet. So now, you go to pick an order. With this tier of WMS, when you get to a pick slot, all you have to do is hit the barcode on that pallet, that license plate number that we talked about. If you've broken the plastic wrapping paper and all you have are the cases on top of the pallet, you hit the barcode on the case on the top of the pallet. This means that you're now capturing the exact lot code that you're picking from. You did not have to label every single case on the pallet, and you did not have to write down every single lot code as you picked it. This is going to exponentially increase the velocity at which your pickers can pick cases. So now, you build out pallets, right? Now bear in mind, this is only really bulletproof if you pick by the order. The moment you pick by the route, that still goes back to the previous point where you have to have the driver have a scanning system of some kind or some way to enter the lot number on the point of delivery. Otherwise, you have no idea what lot number went to a customer. Anyways, to go back to my previous point, by labeling the pallet and labeling some cases on top of it and tracking the whereabouts of that pallet and scanning from that barcode, that label, that license plate when picking from that pallet, that gives you almost 100% lot traceability, because you know what pallets with what lot numbers came in, what pallets with what lot numbers remain in the warehouse, and what pallets and lot numbers that I scanned from to pick a specific customer order or truck order. So now comes the last level of warehouse management system, which is the full WMS. As you mature and your company grows and scales and you add more warehouse pickers and you need more levels of traceability, in addition to being able to track your pallets and their labels, you're going to introduce bin locations, bin max replenishment, some level of first expired, first out, first in, first out that's automated, some level of palletization during picking, some level of truck loading off the on the truck, and some level of truck unloading on returns. How does this work? So let's pick up where we left off in the previous example where we received product and labeled every single pallet. When you have a full WMS, your employee in the warehouse should come in to your receiving dock, scan that pallet, and the system should tell that person exactly where to place that pallet in proximity to its pick slot. That pallet should be picked up by a forklift, driven to its aisle, placed in a backstock location where it resides and is tracked by the WMS. Now, if you're a distributor, you've got 500, 600, 1,000 items that you keep on hand. These items are located within the warehouse, which means it should have a designated pick slot where faster moving items are in bigger slots, slower moving items are in smaller slots. When your replenishment period happens, when you go to replenish, you should be able to use something called bin max replenishment in your warehouse management system. This is going to automatically trigger the pallets that need to be rotated down to fill your pick slots based off your pick slot min and max. This means that your forklift driver can go exactly where they need to go and pull the pallet in the exact sequence that they need to pull it, whether it's using first expired, first out, or first in, first out. You get to the backstock location, you pull the pallet down, put it in its pick slot, prep everything for picking, and now picking becomes very easy because the WMS should take all of the orders that you need to pick. Whether you're picking by the route or picking by the order, the WMS should be able to create something called a pick list through a picking wave. Let me give you an example. If you pick by the route, there's still a way in a WMS to pick every single order within that route by the order by going through the pick slot only one time. So the system's gonna create these pick lists because it knows that it's a consolidated pick list, an individual order pick list, or a consolidated pick list restricted by the number of lots on that pallet. It can separate the pick lists and by default allow your picker to not have to mix lots on a single pallet. And this is awesome because now you can restrict the system to not being able to pick 3 lots onto a pallet. It can use its logic to only put 1 lot onto this pallet and 1 lot onto this pallet, thus allowing you to have traceability to the customer. It can also tell you on a cart, for example, where to place certain lot codes as you're picking. So this picking logic, which you can Google online, is called wave planning, and it allows you to fully control how lots are picked, and if you're picking by the route, how they can be separated on the tote to which you're picking to ensure that you have full traceability. Remember what we talked about. If you pick to the route and you pick to pallet, there is a probability you could pick multiple lots. Without having your driver scan, right, you're gonna need those lots to be separated amongst those pallets. Otherwise, you will never know what case went to what customer specifically of what lot. So now we've talked about picking. Irrespective of what pick list is creating, the picker is gonna get to the pick slot and they're gonna scan the location. By scanning the location, the system's gonna pick up what lot number, what expiration, and what pick list is being picked to, and it'll also be able to create the pallets that it's being picked to in whatever configuration that you want. This is what all WMSs do. So now you've picked the pallet by scanning the location. The next thing a WMS does is it allows you to check that pallet. Checking that pallet's just used for counting. It's not really used for lot traceability in this scenario. But almost all my customers, they check, especially if they don't have a delivery system for their drivers to indicate mispicks or wrong items picked and loaded onto their truck. So now, the WMS, the last thing that it's gonna do is ensure that the right pallet or right tote with the lot numbers that were picked to it is loaded onto the truck. This gives you end-to-end lot traceability. The thing about distributors though, with WMSs is that lot traceability doesn't die when the product leaves the door. It becomes extremely important to track the lot numbers coming back off refusals or returns. When you have a WMS, you know exactly what pallets, what totes were loaded out for what orders, and what lot numbers were on each of those pallets and totes. So when you load out to the truck leaves, returns come back, all you have to do is look on the case, input the lot number, and it'll tell you exactly what order it went out on. It'll allow you to reprint a lot tag or a license plate number to put on that case or on that pallet, so then you can put that product from your receiving dock back away in its pick slot. So I'm sorry to get a little bit convoluted there in the final WMS example, but that is the single highest tier of WMS. Sure, there's a bunch of AI improvements coming for lot traceability, but I don't foresee these levels of lot traceability changing anytime soon. So if you're on paper, fix the processes so you're doing everything correctly. If not, add simple scanning on the barcode or on the cases that are coming in by adding barcodes to everything. If you don't want to do that because it's too much work to put labels on everything, then you need to get a very simple WMS that simply prints a license plate number, puts it on the pallet, and then you scan off that license plate to pick from that pallet. And then if you want ultimate lot control, a system that will separate lot numbers between packs, a system that will allow you to have full lot traceability from the moment the lot number enters the warehouse to how it's packed in the warehouse to a customer, how it's shipped to the warehouse, and ultimately how it's returned to the warehouse, you need the highest level of WMS. This is reserved for established businesses, obviously. But if you're at that position, hey, advanced, mega enterprise WMS is for you. Feel free to hit me up about it, by the way, because I do one of those and I do all the other tiers as well. And I hope that you can get over this hump of not being able to track lot numbers. If you have any questions, go down below, like, subscribe, comment. I look forward to seeing you next video. Take care. Peace.